All right, dude. So I'm here with Dr. Samuel Gilpin.
Yes.
So what's up, Doc?
What's up, bro? You got the Dior
The
Jordans
Dior J's
or
on a little bit, yeah.
Nice, bro.
I wore them for. I wanted to wear them for the content.
Nice,
yeah.
bro,
These are my
yeah.
Saturday shoes.
Yeah, nice. the designer kicks.
The design.
Yeah.
Dude, so I'm super stoked to have you on here. You know what's crazy is I feel like we've kind of known each other for a long time, but haven't really had a chance to like really deepen our relationship until recently.
Totally.
So,
and it turns out we like vibe with each other, bro.
Yeah,
we had a good time, bro. So it's Super Bowl weekend right now.
Yeah.
I fly in. I missed my flight in the morning.
No.
I can't even get into TSA.
Yeah.
Flying out of Portland, and I come out here. Oscar swoops me up yesterday. We jammed out. We got stuck in all this traffic.
Dude,
we ruined his whole day.
Yeah, it's okay though.
Yeah, but we had fun.
Yeah, it was a good time.
Yeah.
It was a super solid time. So I'm super grateful to have you on here. And the more I hear, like, I feel like I kind of knew you were like a genius or really intellectually smart.
No.
But then I heard you with Lee yesterday. Lee thinks you're a genius. So pretty much you're the smartest guy in the door-to-door industry by a long shot.
No, bro. So that conversation was, we were at dinner and we were talking about, like, you know, people have different drives, right? So like some people are like really, really driven by like money if they came from like poverty or something like that. Other people are really driven by like status. Like if you're talking about like solar as a like an industry, competitions,
right.
That's really driving productions. And sometimes something like a shirt, like an exclusive
right, like
shirt
status.
is gonna be what gets like a rep. So we were talking about just like different drives and stuff like that. And I've never really been driven by money, but like we were at dinner and I was just saying, like, you know, what I really appreciate about myself, like the kind of stuff that appeals to me and like the sense of achievement that appeals to me is like, I'm like, you know, I'm probably in this restaurant that we're at Red Rock. In this restaurant that we're at, it's like I'm probably the most educated. I didn't say smartest, but I'm the most educated. So it's
right.
like you walk into a room and it's like immediately, just given the population, I'm probably,
right,
you know,
like have consumed the most information. And dude, so you're like a couple years older than me, and you probably read way
I
more
think I'm
than
1 year. You're 33. I'm 34.
Yeah. Oh no way! I
Yeah,
thought you were 35.
No,
Berto's 35.
Berto's
Freaking
35,
grandpa.
yeah.
No, I'm just kidding. Dude,
well, I'm gonna turn it's February right now. March 23rd is my birthday, so I'll be 35 this year.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'll be
so
34
are you
too.
91?
90.
90.
Yeah, so
so
you're
I'm
89?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, sick, dude.
Yeah.
Dude, that's sick. But so, okay, you are still like you're past school and you still consume information at that same rate as like when you were studying, you'd say?
No, I wouldn't say it. So at one point in time, like one point in time was a book a day.
Holy smokes.
A book a day, but in like grad school, like PhD, and granted, like I have a PhD in English literature, so it's primarily I'm reading, but
right.
you know, I'm teaching, right? Because I got to get funding, so I'm teaching for them. So I have whatever I'm teaching, that book. And then I have my 3 or 4 classes that I have to be taking, right? So I have those 3 or 4 books. So at any given time, on a weekly basis, it's 3 to 6 books that I'm reading.
Consume?
Plus the articles, the criticism, like to orient yourself around it. But I think just for me is like, I was, I was listening to the radio in the rental car driving over here, right? And I was just so bored.
Yeah.
It's like music. Like I like music, like all of us, but I'd rather be listening to like a book.
Yeah. So I was gonna ask you that. Is like when you're with like Audible, like car time, you still listen to like information as well. You're not like listening to music. Yeah. So you put in ear time and like book time, because I feel like a lot of people. Say like, yeah, I read a ton of books, but really they listen to audiobooks, which I feel like it's kind of different. Like where when I'm like physically reading a book, I'm almost using that skill to like focus and concentrate. Totally. You're like sharpening your like focus and attention. Where when you're listening, it's like coming in, you're doing other stuff. So I don't feel like it's really the same. But how do you read so fast? Like, how did you like develop the skill to read like fast?
I think you just read a lot, man. Like it was at one point in time I was really like interested in like how do I increase the amount of like information that I'm getting in and retaining. Yeah. And so I bought a few books. on like speed reading and kind of like took a few courses on speed reading. So it's like I can speed read.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean I'm speed reading every book.
Right.
And the higher the, you know, it's like Audible, right?
Right.
The faster you put that thing on, you know,
Yeah.
1 times 2 times
Right.
2.5 times 3, and it's like
You're
how
not
much are you
consuming.
actually retaining,
Yeah.
right? So anytime you're increasing speed with reading, like there's going to be a retention kind of thing. So it's all context dependent, right? So
I see.
if I'm reading a business book, you know, the title is the one thing, right?
Yeah.
I know already going into that book that there's one thing,
Like one concept you got to understand.
One thing that I need to pick out, right?
Yeah.
So if I'm reading that versus, you know, the 7 habits of highly effective people, right? Now I know that there's 7 things that I need to so it's just context dependent.
That's crazy, dude.
But like you just read a lot. I mean, I heard, man, Earl Nightingale, I don't know if you've ever, so The Strangest Secret is probably his most famous recording, but he had another one
The
later.
Only Lesson, or Lead the Field?
Lead the Field,
yeah. That was
so which is an amazing recording.
That book is dope.
Yeah, so I think it's 12 different things, but in one of them he talks about how do you become like an expert, like what's considered an expert. And what he said is that if you read for 1 hour every day in your chosen field, you know, whether that's whatever it is, right? In 4 to 5 years' time, you'll be recognized as like an international expert on that.
Wow.
So
that's wild.
It's just that one compound piece of, you know, consistently showing up on a daily basis, consuming information. Eventually, you're going to outpace.
Right.
People.
I mean, that's how I feel like I read a lot, but in comparison to you, it's like I don't have 13 years of like compounded.
Reason I brought it up, because we do it all the time, right? But the only reason I brought it up was because of like the implication of the label, that I was like a good person, and then if I don't do this, and that's the power of labeling, right? The power of labeling, like, Oscar, you know, I know you're an honest person, right? So you're gonna pay me or whatever, right? So, but on the doors, like, I've been thinking a lot about mismatching. So, for instance, if I tell you, like, you know, solar's the greatest thing ever, right? Or I'm like, the utility is terrible, 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 right? You might, your ego might get like involved, and you might be like,
the utility's great, it gives me power.
Or like, solar, no, right?
Yeah.
So I'm gonna, rather than leading them to the frame that I want, I've mismatched the energy. So what if we switch it up and we, you know, knock on the door and, hey, you know, I saw you got and I don't know what NVE is at, but I know it's astronomically high. But up in Portland, you know, 18% with Portland General Electric. Hey, the utility went up 18% in January. We're just coming around, you know, congratulations on it. All your neighbors, they've been thrilled about it, right? So it's like, they're going to go, oh man, I hate it. I can't believe they're doing all this, right?
Yeah, that almost is like, it stimulates a reaction.
Yeah.
So like you're prepared.
A reaction I want.
Yeah. Because you're going to like diffuse it or change it, right? Dude, this guy, do you know TJ Direct Solar? he used to, when I first got started in solar and he was like kind of training me, I used to be terrified, bro. He literally would do anything he could to agitate the homeowner, and they'd come out pissed off, like angry, and he's just like, oh, hey, sorry to bug you, da, da, da. And he would defuse it. But I was like a total rookie. I'd be like, dude, he's gonna fucking shoot me. Like, what am I gonna do? Yeah. He like throw rocks, dude. He like hop the gate, knock on the window, like come back, like. It was nuts, dude. That's awesome. Yeah, he was a freaking gangster. He still is a gangster. He's doing his thing. Awesome. But yeah, so if you create that like agitation, then you're prepared to like with your talk track on how to like respond to it, right?
So and it's like if I go, I can't believe that NVE or PGE or Pacific Power or like whatever utility is doing this. The homeowner, more than likely, right? Because the homeowner's trying to get you off the door. They're trying to end the conversation. More than likely, the homeowner's going to be like, "It's the way the world works." And then I'm like, "Well, yeah, but there's also that. Like, they haven't said it's a problem. Right. I'm the one that's saying it's a problem, right? What if I flip it and they're the one that's saying it's a problem?
Oh, yeah.
Now I'm positioned to. Well, I've got this solution called solar.
Dude, that's actually really smart. Yeah, because then it's like you're getting them because you're getting them to like identify the problem and tell you that it's the problem.
Yeah. But and this goes back to the earlier question. It's not like I've come up with this, right? It's like what you're saying with like TJ, right? It's like I've just consumed a lot of information, and so it's like I've tried various things on the door, and like none of the stuff that I do on the door or in life, any of my ideas are original. People have already figured this stuff out. I just need to find them.
Right. Yeah, dude, that's kind of crazy how when you get a piece of information and it like starts working and you're like, whoa, this is so crazy. This has been around this whole time. Like I just learned it. Like what the heck?
Like the richest man in Babylon, pay yourself first.
Yeah.
And then you look at your bank account and you're like, whoa.
Yeah. Holy smokes, dude.
I've been able to like pay my bills.
Holy
crap. And now I have a little nest egg.
Yeah.
Like, who would have thought?
Who would have thought you could do that? Just taking 10%. Out of every transaction. That's nuts. Yeah, that's a great book too. That was like one I crushed in like a day or so.
Yeah, that's an afternoon book.
Yeah.
But that's what I mean. Like there's different contexts, right? Like I'm going into that book looking for the one nugget, or in that case, the 5 or 6 principles or whatever it was, but the one nugget that I can take away, right? So there's different, like if I'm reading for pleasure, right? Like I bought the Jack Reacher novel on the airplane.
Yeah.
And so I'm reading it. It's just like I'm just flying through it.
Right. It's like fun.
I'm reading it for pleasure. If I'm reading something that's like, I want this specific one piece, what's the piece of gold that I need that I can get to quickly and access that quickly? I'm not probably going through each page like laboriously trying to figure out.
Yeah, because it's a different type of like time you're spending. Like when
need to even study that.
Right.
Yeah. How long have you been in solar?
I think I started in like 2018.
Oh, wow.
Or 19, yeah. Like I think it was like the end of 18 going the beginning of 19.
Is that how you met Berto and Steven?
Yeah, pretty well. No, I actually met Steve through, do you know Chico? Mm-hmm. So I was doing content for this other dude, Ryan Rhodes. He's a cool dude. I've known him for a long time.
Superhero name.
Right? Like Clark Kent.
Yeah.
So yeah, Ryan, he like introduced me to Chico because they wanted content. And then Chico brought me in and met Steve, and then Chico like somehow was like transition, like ditched Sunder, and then like Steve was stuck with the agreement, and then I was able to like build a relationship with Steve for a while, and that was like right after Sunder was built in like 2020 or something like that.
So how I came into it, Joey Weir worked with Steve and Berto and James at Legacy, and then it switched to Sunder. Right. And then he went over with Lee. Oh. He wasn't getting like the support that he felt like he needed at Sunder.
Oh, okay.
And he went over with Lee, and that's how I met Berto, was through Joey.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a small world.
Especially if you start knocking doors in Las Vegas.
Yeah. Yeah, so that was 2018. That was cool. I was like slow with the camera. And my buddies were just killing it, dude. Like, just making crazy money. And I was like, this is insane, dude. Like, are you serious? This is for real? And they're like, yeah, dude, all you gotta do is knock on doors. I was like, I can fucking knock on doors. Like, what? And then, I started doing it. I was like, fuck, this sucks. Kind of, you know? Yeah, this is super hard. But it was great because it changed my life, like, in all of it. Like, the self-development, the, like, how you were saying you refine yourself, like, facing the rejection and, like, really seeing what I could be capable of. And I only sold a few deals and was like, all right, got enough money to fucking go back to doing what I do. Yeah. And then I just became like the solar camera guy, I guess. And
well, it's like a unique position that you've put yourself in as far as like entrepreneurship, right? Like you have all these contacts because you're in that industry, right? And these people need content to recruit and do all that kind of stuff. So it's like, here you are.
Yeah.
Fix that problem.
You know what's funny is I was like so like I didn't want to embrace that for like the longest time. Like when I was first, like the first chapter of Pathfinder was like cool, edgy like stuff, and the solar stuff was just kind of like, I don't know, I wasn't stoked. I was almost like, oh yeah, I gotta do solar stuff, like almost like embarrassed or ashamed of it. But then it was when I started like transitioning that like the heart or the spirit, like the cool edgy stuff, and take it to like the solar space or do like stuff in that like manner, I guess, for solar, that I was like, oh, I could, now it's starting to click, and I started like really get it. And yeah, it's expanded since then. I still am like, feel like I'm on a journey to like figure myself out, you know?
Oh, totally. I mean, that's how I first heard about you, is I'm knocking doors with Berto and James up in Oregon. Excuse me. And I think I was in the back seat of their car and they were talking and they were like, yeah, Oscar's like, he's really like picking up on like the social or like the social media stuff for these solar companies. Like he's really positioned himself really well to like capture this kind of stuff. So that was originally how I heard it.
Oh, really? That's awesome. Yeah, shout out to him. Yeah, we did like, I felt like it was kind of like dangerous though, because I became super really dependent on one market, which was solar and door-to-door industry. And then like last year, because the interest rates and everything got like crazy, a lot of dealers like contracted or were like playing it safe, and we were one of the biggest expenses on their like on their list. So we started getting cut by a lot of companies.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, and so I was like, oh crap, dude, this is like an industry-wide kind of thing. I was like, dude, we're like all our eggs are in solar. We should start doing other stuff again, you know? So that was a cool lesson. You know, everything.
Yeah, I mean, when those interest rates hit, the bank
dealer
failure,
fees.
You know, I remember this was 21. Late 21 is when it started happening. Was that when the California?
I think that was like...
Or was that 22?
I think that was like 20, like
what
the end of 22. It's 24, bro.
Yeah,
so I think it was like...
22 was NEM 3.0. And then I remember right after that, the installer that we had been working with like started, you know, kind of showing some signs of
like,
you know,
the
and
pressure.
we were all in,
right?
They were telling us to go sell here, and here. We can get deals in quickly. Cool. Put all our guys in there. You know, and then when it's like, hey, we can't pay your guys, it's like, what do you mean?
Yeah,
you know,
that's terrible. I guess I kind of experienced some of that. Two of our like dealers we worked with went like totally bankrupt, like just went under, gone. Like there's no more, there's no more money. Everyone's screwed, not just you. But I imagine like their reps and everyone had a lot of like, it wasn't just us the only ones that didn't get paid out.
Oh,
you know
no,
what I mean?
Yeah, there's yeah.
And we were like part of I feel like we were helping their deception, because like online everything's all good, you know what I mean? And then all of a sudden like it's just over and everyone's like, what do you mean? Everything looks good online. Like, you know what I mean?
But I think that's like one of the biggest things that I learned in door-to-door, in sales, in marketing, and all that kind of stuff is like the facade that is the presentation in social media.
Dude, it's
is
so
like,
crazy.
Oh my God, like
Bro, did I show you? We just did a commercial. I don't even know if we'll use this part, but we did a commercial for Floyd Mayweather's whiskey. Because my boy Andy, who I started Pathfinder with a long time ago, he does all of Floyd Mayweather's content. He's
Nice.
like, he has some really dope contacts.
That's
and so he came over to my garage and we did like a whole elaborate shoot. I'll show you the video after. It's crazy epically pimp. Like, it looks so good. But the product, bro, was so bad. Like, the distill had like chunks in it, the freaking cork's falling apart inside the whiskey. It's like, it's a turd, dude. It's a total turd. And we're like, bro, we're making this look like it's like fucking really good product. So it's kind of crazy.
Well, I mean, that excuse me, that's the power of marketing.
Yeah,
like the chief thing, the king and queen of the world is sales and marketing, right?
Yeah.
If you can move a product, like, can you make a better hamburger than McDonald's?
Probably not.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Usually someone's going to say, I can make a better burger.
Dude, I haven't had McDonald's in years.
But it's terrible. So we were talking, well, it's good. I mean, for what McDonald's is, it's good. But we were talking about Fuku, what is it?
Yeah, Fuku burger.
Fuku burger, which I had last night for the first time, which is like fire.
Gasoline,
right?
Tank,
that is not McDonald's, right?
Right.
But like McDonald's has the marketing.
Yeah.
Right? And so it's like it's on every street corner,
right,
across the whole world.
On TV.
On TV, you know that if you're in a pinch, right?
Right.
I'm hungry. I know I can go get a Big Mac, and it's going to be the exact same as it was when I was 13, right?
Right.
Because of marketing, the product itself, you could have the best product in the whole world, but if no one knows about it,
you're toast.
No one's gonna buy it.
Yeah, dude. I follow the guys who do like McDonald's like advertising, like their videos and stuff. And dude, it's all fake. Like, it's not the real burger. It's like fake buns that are like sprayed with like hairspray, and like the meat is like it's like all props. It's not even the real product. So that should be illegal.
I'm sure there's like so much like solar money that's fake too. Like,
what do you mean?
Like the prop cash.
Oh yeah,
throwing out the prop cash.
Dude, you know what's so funny is like back to social media is like I had a bunch of prop money that I got for like a shoot. I don't even remember what it was, but I like posted it or something. Everyone's like, "Whoa, bro, you got like $1 million in cash? Like, why do you have $100,000 in cash on you?" I'm like, bro, it's prop money. Like, what? Like, why would I have $100,000 in cash just like throwing it around? Yeah. But also, I was like, whoa, do people perceive me in that manner? That's kind of cool. I just fucking set $100,000 on. I think it was like.
Did you set it on fire?
Yeah, we were setting it on fire and shit.
That's a baller move. That's a Floyd Mayweather move.
Yeah,
there.
Dude, and it's actually illegal. We found out doing that shoot, you can't advertise setting money on fire. It's like it's actually illegal. To set money on fire. I don't know. It's just against like. It's not allowed.
I think the thing with social media is like, going on that, it's like when you start putting out content that's like branded, like let's say you put out like a video that you have done for me or you have done for someone else, right? It's a professional looking video. The perception is that, you've somehow made it. Or like something like that.
Yeah.
And it's like, I'm the same person I was prior.
Dude, it's just
to the video.
So like I do a whole training on like social media. Like the first step is people get hung up and like think it's their identity. So like people like don't want to put out certain content. They think they're gonna offend people or their aunts or their moms or someone's gonna say something about it. And like you have to get over that barrier and be like, dude, this is just the internet. Like it's like. I've been in media so long that I know everything you see behind the screen has been fabricated, like specifically for you to see it in a manner that they want you to see it. Like that's why it's been put together in that way. Yeah. And so like when you know that, it's like, dude, everything, no matter what, is fabricated for you to see and get to perceive a certain manner. And it's just like, it's a tool. So like, it's not who you actually really are. It's like a tool that you can use to get people to influence them. And then if you want to take it even further, it's like to influence them to take action with you in one way or another. Like if you're properly using it. Yeah. But people get hung up on that like identity, like this is who I am. It's like, bro, this is a fucking profile on the internet. Yeah. It's not even like part of your soul. Like, it's not you. But
and it's so like, it's such like a small fraction of like your life,
dude.
You know what I mean? Like if someone was recording me like all day long and I'm like just talking and going
doing
about
regular
like,
stuff,
my normal day, like what portion of that day is going to be entertaining? You know, like half of 1%. Right?
Yeah,
That's
like your clothes.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like
maybe the shower scene.
Yeah, exactly. Every picture that you're taking and every picture that's on the internet, unless it's like some candid whatever, is so orchestrated.
100%.
It's so, you know, you've seen those things where, you know, the women are like, you know, they have the belly or whatever, and then they turn and they're like they look like a stunning supermodel, right?
Right?
Like it's the same person.
Yeah.
It's the exact same. Nothing's changed with their body except our angle of perception, right? But we're so influenced by, and I think it's because it moves so quickly, right? We can't digest something long enough if we're just scrolling through.
Right.
So we see someone, you know, with the prop cash, right?
Right.
And we're like, man, Oscar's made it.
Holy crap. We're setting money on fire.
Oh my God. What's Oscar doing?
Yeah. Dude, same thing as I was doing a shoot for like, dude, this billionaire guy, he has like $700 million worth of cars. He wants us to do like a YouTube channel for him. So we're shooting like a Ferrari and I just like got to sit in it and like, I didn't even drive it. I just got that we were supposed to shoot the inside, so I took a picture of the inside of the freaking steering wheel, and everyone was like, "Congrats, bro!" I was like, "What?" Like, I would nowhere near like buying a Ferrari. If I had 250 cash, I would definitely not buy a Ferrari with it. I'd put it in that real estate investment thing I was telling you about. But so that was kind of crazy too. It's just like the perception is wild, but also you could leverage it. That's why I'm starting a coaching program for videographers. It's actually just a course and like the option to work with me one-on-one. I don't know what it's going to do. I'm just kind of testing an ad and seeing how it'll work. But shit, I don't know where I was going with that. What were we talking about?
So it's like leveraging your expertise.
Oh, yeah.
Is that what you're going to say?
So I'm really against the coaching like market because it's all perception. Like, who's to know like what their actual like credentials or value are? Like, even I'm trying to leverage my expertise to a certain degree, but it's like you can't. It's really hard to guarantee someone's success because you have to like walk with them through it. It's like taking someone on the doors and like showing them every single step and then analyzing what they're not doing to like change it to create the result. And so like most like big coaching guys, they're too big. They don't take the time to really refine your pitch with you. So it's like you're not going to get that full value, you know what I mean? So I don't know, it's all a facade.
Yeah, I think with like education or coaching and stuff like that, I think there's a valid market for it. I don't think it's like, I think a lot of us we have a problem, and obviously you get third party, someone else. They're not going to name a new sin after you, right? Everything's already been done. Right. Everything's been done under the sun. It's not a new thing. The thing that you're going through right now, whether it's a problem or whatever it is, financial, health, so on and so forth, business, someone's already gone through it and they've written about it.
Right.
Or they've talked about it somewhere. Right. We just need to find that. So I think a coach is good, but I think oftentimes when we're like, okay, here's 25,000, here's 30,000, here's 50,000, please coach me for the 6 months or whatever the package is. And we look to them as this sort of expert, where all they can really do is like kind of point us back, either point a direction or point us back to ourselves where the answers are to be found.
Yeah, because everything's within you anyways. Like, it's like you can show you how to knock doors, but you got to knock them, like, so.
Well, and it's in the process of you knocking them and you failing forward is you're going to learn the thing. Like, I don't know how many reps, you go out and you train and they're like, well, why don't you just say, right when you knock on their door, hey, are you interested in solar? It's like,
try it.
Yeah. Why don't we try it? Why don't we see? And then it's like, I'll do it. and they don't believe that I got the result that I got, even though they just witnessed it.
Yeah.
So then I'm like, all right, you do it. You try it.
Yeah.
And then they do it, and they get even a worse reaction.
Right.
And it's like, yeah, we're doing it the way we're doing it because this is something that's going to get us into a conversation, which we need, rather than just immediate sales resistance. But like, until they knock on enough doors and experiment with all these different types of words and, you know, acting and so on and so forth, they're not going to like trust themselves in that. It's a competency confidence, you know.
What's that?
So it's a loop. So the more competent you become in something, the more confident you're going to be. And the more confident you become, the more confident you become, the more competent you're going to become.
Oh, I see.
So, for instance, like we all know those people that are like the natural born salesmen, knock on someone's door and they don't know anything about solar, right? But they're good with people. They set an appointment, they get a sale, right? Their appearance, they're so confident in what they're doing. But if you ask them, like, well, what's ITC tax credit? They have no idea what they're talking about.
It's like, it's letters, dude. Yeah. Duh.
And then versus the other one where they come in and they have to learn about solar, they have to learn about talking to people, they have to increase their competency, and then eventually their confidence, where they knock on someone's door, they know that, you know, for every 3 people they talk to, they're going to get a sale or whatever. Right. So I remember, so I knocked with Taylor McCarthy. Shout out to, if you're in solar, go by that course. Like Knoxstar University, follow Taylor on social and all that stuff. Super valuable content. But I knocked with him here in Vegas. First time he ever knocked doors in Vegas. And we went out in the field, and he was like, halfway through the day, he was like, wait, what's the utility here? And then he's like, what's the company that we're selling? Like he had so much confidence just from years and years and years and years of doing it that he didn't need to know what the rate hikes were or what the utility was doing or even the name of the company, right? Like he had just so much confidence because he was a complete professional. Yeah. Right? So, you know, that's like the two extremes, right? You know, of kind of door to door, of sales.
Yeah. Dude, okay, well, let's pivot a little bit. I know I heard your story like on Lee's podcast, so maybe we could fast forward it to where you're at now and what you're excited about moving forward in the future.
Totally. Where I'm at now, what I'm excited about in the future.
It doesn't have to be just like work or anything, just like overall, like, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I'm in like I feel like I'm in a good position to, finally in a good position to kind of do some of the things that I've been seeing a lot of people. I've had a very, I wouldn't say difficult. I mean, it is what it is, but I've had a lot of starts and stops in my door-to-door career. You know, moving through companies or an installer or so on and so forth. Problem with a branch, you know, there's no perfect solar installer, right? But the secret with solar is, and door-to-door especially, is you have to be in one spot, and that's how you build, right? Yeah. So it's like, you know, you earn a good income this year, right? You can leverage that and double that or quadruple that in this industry, right? But you have to be in the same place, right? So
not starting from scratch.
I feel like, you know, myself, my co-managers, we're in a good position now in the market that we're in, where I can finally start like, okay, cool, I got this money in the index funds. I got this, I can make this investment, that kind of stuff, where it's prior to this was like, you know, I'll put like a little bit in and then just like something happens and I got to pay out some reps or do something like that. So I, as far as the future, I'm excited. I'm very, very excited to build with the company that we're with right now, with the installer that we're with right now in the market that we're in. I'm really excited to be around the people that I'm with, my brothers. I feel like God's constantly working on my life. And the things that I perceive as tragedies or failures or something like that, on a longer term timeline, I can see God's perfect movement around. But I feel like right now too, I've struggled with like an identity for a long time. Prior to my door-to-door career, I was, PhD student, poetry I wrote.
Dude, I actually been reading the stuff that you post.
Oh,
It's
nice.
pretty
Bro.
dope.
Yeah, appreciate that. But yeah, I used to write like, 4 hours a day. That's what I did, right?
Really?
It was like I wrote, I read, I thought. That's kind of what I did. And when I got into door to door, I think one of the things that initially drew me to door or sales in general is like the type of person that you would think of like a salesman. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like if we were at like door to door con this last weekend or something like that, it's like, the jacked brother, just good looking,
solar
good
bro.
smile. Yeah, the solar bro, that kind of stuff. And it was like, I've always kind of wanted that and wanted that identity. I think I'm a very charismatic person if, I kind of open up and that kind of stuff. But I wouldn't say that I'm someone that, really had the people skills to be able to like go out and in the field, give me a login and I'm just going to go out and sign someone, right? So I think initially that's what attracted me. And then, I also was in a relationship at the time where I really felt like I needed some money. And the identity that I shifted into, I started wearing, Nikes, which is, there's nothing wrong with Nikes. I'm not trying to say that. It's just I've never owned them, right? It's like these are Clarks, what I'm wearing right now. Typically, I wear Clarks, right? And like that's just kind of what I mean. Like I started losing what my authentic kind of identity had been in this effort to kind of try and be something that I really wasn't. So I've really seen this last, 5-6 months, maybe even a year, but definitely I've been a conscious effort the last like 6 months to be like, okay, who was I? Who am I now? And how do I bridge those things together and start kind of doing that and like living more authentically in that kind of thing. So I'm in an industry, right, that, typically we're not, celebrated for our, how much education we have, right? You know what I mean? It doesn't matter, right? It's like I have value that I can bring to that industry. That industry has value that can put into my life. Doesn't matter where I'm getting my paycheck and how I'm paying my mortgage. It doesn't matter for the things that maybe are those like interests, right? Like I'm sure if you didn't have a media company, you'd probably still be taking pictures, right? And making social. Yeah.
Or doing what you guys are doing
sales. But like I don't mean like for, on the weekend, right?
Yeah.
You're like going around, you're probably taking pictures and like because you enjoy the camera.
Yeah, that's how
right?
it started.
You just actually have positioned yourself. Now, the thing that I enjoy is I'm not building bridges, right? I'm reading books. No, there's no money in poetry, right? So that was always a thing that in my past life in school, I would always think like, man, I'm not building a bridge. Like I'm not really bringing value to the world. And it was like, it messed with me, a lot.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
But you're bringing.
But when you write, like, and you put your thoughts down, like, that's an assortment of like information that people could use to get context on a subject or a, or whatever topic you're writing about, and that potentially is valuable, right? But
even that, what you just said, it's use value.
Yeah.
Right. Like I have to do something useful. Right. So like a poem, an art object, right? That thing on the wall right there, what's the use value of that?
It's a sound. It's for the sound. Maybe that thing over there is like more useless.
Right, well, I'm trying to think of like, this is all like curated. Like if we were at like, why do you put a picture up on the wall in your house, right? Yeah. There's no use value to that.
I see what you're saying.
But there's aesthetic value,
right?
My experience of the room is now completely different. And it's like, if there was nothing in here and we walked in here, we'd be like, this is weird, bro. Like, I feel uncomfortable in here.
Yeah.
Like one wall's white, one wall's, blue.
Echoey.
There's a popcorn like, ceiling,
yeah.
like, and there's just open windows, right?
Yeah.
Like there's nothing in here. It would feel off-putting.
Yeah.
Right? So there's aesthetic value to things. There's pleasure inherent in aesthetics and art objects that is the value. That's why someone goes to a museum. That's why someone goes to a concert. That's why someone, kind of watches a movie or whatever the art object is, the value itself. But I was missing that for so long. I kept confusing use value, which is the value that obviously we need in the real world.
Right.
I need a street that works.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, but like my experience of the world, just like my experience of walking into this room, is heavily affected by the aesthetics of something. So there's pleasure inherent in an aesthetic thing. So that's how I see poetry now. And there's an enjoyment that I have now with it because it's not tied to like me
like
having
the pressure
to,
of like creating value with it. Yeah. Dude, that's really dope to like, I mean, it's dope that you're sharing that as like something that you've gone through and like experienced. And I could always tell, I don't know if this connects to what you're saying, but this is like the thought it stimulated for me is creating value in the world as a service or whatever the case may be, even adding value to another human. I notice like a lot of people when they break maybe to like a entrepreneur or like just like I don't know, they break through a barrier, but below this barrier they don't understand what like giving value is like, or like what value is. Like they go to a job but they don't understand that like they're doing something value for exchange. They just feel like, oh, dude, I don't know how to word this. Like whenever I want something or like I want to have a conversation or anything, the very first thing I try to do is be valuable to that person. Like do anything I can to create some sort of value for that person. Like move their chair, help them move their thing, whatever, add something that's useful. And I think the definition of value is like the usefulness of like an object or something like that. Like, so when people ask for stuff and then they're like, adding no value to you, it's like you could always be like, well, why would I give you all my value and you're not giving me any value? Like there's no equal exchange, so you're not motivated to take action in that direction. And I think like a lot of people before they like crack the code of being of value to society, and usually it's like entrepreneurship or whatever, providing a service or a product, you don't understand that. Like it took me a long time to understand that like being useful and adding value to someone, you just are like, almost, it's like an entitlement. Like, you should talk to me or you should give me something or I am valuable because I read 1 million books. But like, if you're not like, like you said, that pressure of like being valuable and giving something useful for someone like.
Well, I think like this is going back to that question that we were talking about the other day when you were up in Portland and it was the ice storm, right? It was, like, that entitlement, like typically, like we've always been taught like life is inherently valuable, right? I think in the West, that's kind of like a baseline truth, right? And so we've always taught that. And then we also have this like kind of like this self-esteem sort of movement where, our generation, we start getting like participation trophies and stuff like that, just for being on the soccer team. Yeah. Right. And like, there's, I don't want to get into that, but it's like, I think it creates this level, at least it created a level in me of like, I am inherently like valuable. Yeah. Which I think like, I am valuable. You are, yeah. Right? Like a human is valuable. Right. But in relation to others, that's what we're doing in this world, right? We're relating to others. I have to, if I want something from you, there has to be me giving you value first. It's the thing that's opening up. It opens that channel you up. Yeah. It opens you up. And then by providing value, the more value that I'm providing, the more I'm going to get back in return for it. Like, we all have the friend that you're like, I would do anything for that guy because he just does, so much for me. Right. And that's not even like financially. Right. And then we take that value out into the marketplace with a good or service. Yeah. And now that value exchange is coming.
Yeah. And then it shows up in like money or whatever. Yeah. But yeah, like just being,
that might be the marketing piece in you too. Like, because you're an expert at marketing, right? In order for me to, ask you to give me your credit card, right? If like I'm marketing you something, like I have to be giving you value. That's the thing. That's how you're going to listen to me, right? And value-based marketing, whether it's top of mind marketing or like social media or like an actual like, call to action, like web page or something like that. Like the currency of sales, right, is curiosity. So I click on, I've got this problem, I need to lose weight or whatever, and I see the Instagram ad, lose weight instantly. Yeah. I click on it, right, because it's sparked my curiosity. Right. I was indifferent to it. I wouldn't have any curiosity, right? Right. And the next thing that's gonna increase my curiosity, I go to the next page, and it's giving me the value behind why this product works, right? So it's increasing my curiosity more and more and more and more until I believe that it will actually do it. Yeah. Right? But like, I can't just be like, here, Yeah. Like, I have to there has to be something tangible for you to latch on and mull over and see yourself as and become.
Yeah. Yeah, that's such a important topic, I think. Value. And like, I think maybe we take for granted when you're just like add value or create value, and it's just like almost like a word track, right? Like it's just said, but like maybe like people don't define those, like the word, and like really understand what it is. Dude, there's this thing, I went to this KT seminar about like literally defining words, and like by understanding the actual meaning of words, it unlocks like the powers that the word holds. And you think about like my daughter's 2, and she says things, and I don't even know if she knows what it means besides like the relations to the context in which she sees us saying it. Like, oh, let's like, I'll be right back or something, and she sees us like go back and forth, and that's how she's defining that. I'll be right back. It's not like she actually knows like what the word of back is, like, you know what I mean, or right, or like, so I think a lot of us have that in us with our language. We don't actually know the definition of the words in which we're saying, and that's like so powerful when you start to look up like words and really like understand the meaning behind stuff. I think it makes the words more powerful. So like when you make a statement, you're like really unlocking the power, the energy behind that, because it's kind of crazy, like the energy that's behind a word for like centuries, that like, because you say this like pattern with your word or like your mouth, right, your tongue, and then it stimulates a reaction, like it creates an emotion or an energy behind someone. And it's so crazy that you could have that power just by like flicking your tongue and projecting some air, like that's nuts, really.
I mean, language itself. So, you have the etymological, like, origins of a word, right? Like, you look up, like, talking about solar, photovoltaic, right? Photo, like, meaning light, coming from photon, voltaic, volt, right? Photovoltaic, that thing, right? But if you're not familiar with that, it's going to seem like some weird, mysterious type of thing that, like, what are you talking about? Right. You know what I mean? And so, like, if you look at, like, if you know, like, just a kind of little bit about, like, Latin or Greek or stuff like that, and you open a dictionary and you look at the etymological origins of words, like, I think one of the best ones is the root of enthusiasm is entheos, which means the spirit within or God within. And so if I have a lot of enthusiasm, there's something that's coming from inside that I'm expressing out. So it's like, you see that. I think one of the things that I've always, I mean, one of the things I've mulled over a long time is like the construction of language in its relationship to other people and the world. So I'm sitting here and you're sitting there. Now, if we flipped it around, you're sitting here. You would say, I'm sitting here, you're sitting there, right?
Yeah.
It would mean the complete opposite thing, right? So there's this inherent like self-centeredness, and there's this theory. So obviously we have different cultures, right? East, West, so on and so forth, right? And those different languages. There's the theory that the construction of the language is orienting the worldview of that person. So
that geographic space.
So like there, I've heard it, you know, and the Joseph Campbell's the one that's coming to mind is that the Western ego in trying to pursue like an Eastern sort of like nirvana or like spiritual practice, because of the West, it's a lot harder for, now I don't know if this is true or not, but it's a lot harder for that person to like reach nirvana or ego death or whatever, however you want to turn it, through an Eastern course. Whereas like there's Western like mysticism and stuff like that that's constructed because the West's ego construction through the language is different than the East's construction of the ego through their language. So I can't remember the theory of it. It's like Waldorf or something, Morris Waldorf or something like that. But it's essentially that your language both limits the world as well as constructs the world. And the limits of your Wittgenstein, who was a philosopher, he said that the limits of your language is the limits of the world. Right? So if you think about that, the perfect example is your daughter. You know, you know a lot more words than she does, right?
Yeah.
So inherently your world is a lot more expansive than hers, you know?
Yeah.
So, and I think that goes back to like the power, like what we're began our conversation with, the power of education.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, dude, like the limits of your perceived reality is all your senses, not just like the words, like your eyes. Like there's like, I forget how many, there's like a fish or something at the bottom of the earth that's like, or the ocean that could see like 27 different colors, where we have only whatever Roy G. Biv. Like, so that's kind of crazy that like it's all really in front of us, but based on our like tools we have, our touch, our sight, our language, our hearing, we can only conceive this much of it. And so that's kind of crazy.
Have you seen like, it's birds, so like a crow or something like that. I feel like any guy on a podcast. Have you seen that meme that's going around where he's like, can I blow your mind real quick? Hey, Chris is walking out. He's heard this. You can only go somewhere if you've been there before. So we've already been to the moon if we've been. That's what I feel like right now. But like, I wish we had like Joe Rogan, like, here, look this up, right?
Yeah.
So a crow or like a black bird, a raven, right? A crow, we perceive that bird as black, right? But a bird's perception of light is a lot different than ours. So if we put the full spectrum of light on that bird, on a crow, it's actually this multicolored bird, but we can't see it because we can't pick up that spectrum of light.
Whoa, no way. Yeah, so crow's actually like this beautiful radiant thing, and we treat it like a rat. We're like, get out of here, you rat. You rat bird.
Get out of here, you ugly rat bird. But like, it's so true, man. Like, we know that this chair or this room is actually like, there's really nothing there. Like if you get on the deep level, there's
like the quantum physics, like it's just field. Space, right?
Yeah.
Like,
and then like the matter is actually just energy. It's not even solid, it's energy, right? But my perception of the chair is like, I'm sitting in the chair, you know,
based on like, because our bodies matter too. So like, we have to be matter in order to perceive matter.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? So like if you like kicked a rock, it hurts, but like if I don't even know how to, I read this somewhere and I don't even really know what, somewhere along the lines like if you weren't matter and you kicked a rock, then it wouldn't hurt or something like that. I don't know. I don't know how to connect it.
That's the philosophical question of like, if a tree falls in the forest and no one's around, does it make a sound?
Right.
Right?
Right, because if I guess like if there's no one to perceive the vibration in which like it's
so there's David Hume. He was a Scottish, I think he was an Enlightenment philosopher, so like 1800s, somewhere in there. But he has this idea. He was a super radical guy, and he had this idea like of like our identity. So his idea was that it's a bundle theory of perceptions. What that means is my perception of me is I'm the one that's stringing it all together to make an actual identity.
Like a reality, even, right?
Where in reality, it's just perception, right? And so I'm the one that's stringing all of it together to create this identity for myself because I have to have that identity. But, is it actually there? Are you the same body? Are you the same Oscar you were 7 years ago when every single cell in your body was completely different than what it is now? Everything's been replaced in your body.
You're not even...
Are you the same?
I don't know, right? Because...
Who
is Oscar, right? Yeah. Like, because... Yeah, let's go into this because I want to hear your perception on it. But I guess technically your experiences that you've had in the last 7 years, your cells are completely different. So technically you're not really the same person. But like, yeah, if you go as deep as to like, who am I? Are you just like the consciousness observing your like interactions of perceptions of reality? Like this, is that like the spirit or like the self or like what about the subconscious?
Yeah, like it's just deep kind of stuff. So the thing that I think of immediately is I think it's the Kantian argument of identity is the ship. I think it's called like the ship of Theseus. So it's you have this Greek ship and it's called, Theseus's ship, right? And we now replace every single, one piece of wood is kind of rotting, so we're going to replace, and then we find this one's also kind of rotting. Right. And essentially, before long, we've replaced every single piece of wood on that ship. Mm-hmm. Is it still the same ship, Theseus's ship? Further, is identity linked to matter, or is identity linked to some other concept, right? Which goes back to what you were saying is like, who am I as Oscar? Like these are questions that like, people humanity has wrestled with for years.
Yeah, forever, all of existence.
I'm sure we're gonna solve it in a podcast studio right off of Sahara, but commercial centers right across the street, right?
Right.
But no, they're deep questions that we should be asking like ourselves. I don't think that I am Sam Gilpin, right? That's a name that I've been given. I'm something far deeper and operating on multiple different levels, right. Intellectual, physical, spiritual, so on and so forth, right? But, I don't know. I mean, I don't know.
I don't know, dude. That's where the so on an equally kind of level of where you get to I don't know. Have you like read or studied about time?
I mean, I've read like what Stephen Hawking's book?
Yeah,
A Brief History of Time.
Yeah, that's the one I've read too.
He came out with a new one that I picked up before he died.
It's like
called like In Search of.
I have it on my Amazon list too, but I was like, after the first one, I was like, dude, I can't even follow this. I don't know.
Well, I remember. So I read that book when I was like, I was probably like 20. It was perfect age, and the thing, I don't really remember a lot of it. Further, I don't know much about physics in general, or like astrophysics, or like how cosmologies,
right,
or that kind of stuff. But the thing that was interesting was like he was talking about what was prior to the Big Bang. So like, what was the world like prior to like the nothing in the world, right? And his thing, or like, what was time like prior to like when nothing was there?
Yeah.
And his whole thing was like, it doesn't matter, right? Because our world starts with that Big Bang, right?
Yeah.
And that's when time starts, right? So there's, for some reason, I was in a conversation with my friend's wife, excuse me, my friend's husband last night, and we were going to Fuku Burger, and we were talking about the flowering of like different times of thinking in different places in the world. So in the Middle East, the Quran is written, but then also, they discover Aristotle, they discover like the Greeks, and so there's like, this brief period of time where this like large, advancements in technology and medicine and so on and so forth, right? And then, meanwhile in the West, like we're entering into like this kind of dark ages, like the Middle Ages, and then we kind of
that was at the same time.
Yeah.
Oh wow, I
we
didn't
kind
know
of rediscover, stuff in like the Renaissance and stuff like that. So we were talking about like the power, like what is the power, which I don't know, but what is the power of like the Greek thinking, like of Aristotle? And he's like, I don't know anything about Aristotle. And I'm like, I've read everything by Aristotle. I couldn't tell you what it is. The hardest class I ever took in college was a class on the metaphysics of Aristotle, that one book, Metaphysics. But it's 2 volumes. We had to read the complete works of Aristotle to try and understand this one book, Metaphysics. But Aristotle has this concept with time, is that, why is time going in one direction? And he talks about at some point in time, in order to move something has to move it, right? So like if something's just here, stationary, and no external forces moving it, it's just going to stay stationary. So in order to have time, there has to be some movement with it. So at some point in time, he has this concept called the unmoved mover. If you trace all of time back, like the Big Bang, at some point in time, the unmoved mover moved. And it started
moving everything.
And time starts moving.
Huh. Dude, I don't know. Every time I like try to read or understand time, it's like I get past like the first chapter and then I'm like, what am I reading, bro? It doesn't make sense. Like I don't understand it, and I try to connect it and I just get so lost. And like my like biggest thing, it's like I think in that book he talks about like how time doesn't matter, how it's like he refers to like Einstein's relativity of time, and that's like my most basic understanding of it. It's like if you put your hand on a stove for a minute, it feels like it's an hour. If you're having a conversation with like a hot girl for an hour, it feels like a minute. And so like in those same situations, like the same amount of time passed, but your perception of it was different, and that's what like makes time so technically, I guess, like because they said they did like experiments in that book where they took like a stopwatch and they put it like at the bottom of like a tower, and then they took the same stopwatch and like put it at like the highest tower they could, and then when they like came back over whatever course of time they ran the experiment, the times were off, like it was different, time had passed. So like its experience of time was like actually different, but it was also tracked, so like it was like captured, and they had the evidence that the clocks experienced time differently. So like if technically your mind or your space can shift the experience of time, then like could you use that to your advantage in one way, or like could you apply some sort of like strategy to like leverage it for your benefit in one way or another. Like, I don't know.
What that makes me think of is there's a continental philosopher, 20th century, kind of controversial, who's supported the Nazi party, but his name is Martin Heidegger.
We all go through shit.
Yeah, we go through our phases, you know.
I was emo at one time.
we go through. I was kind of weird at one time too, you know. So we go through our phases, right? But Martin Heidegger, super, super influential thinker in continental philosophy. And so what I mean by continental is the continent of Europe, right? So it's outside of the United States. So it's like stuff like existentialism, like Jean-Paul Sartre or Albert Camus, who wrote The Stranger, like these thinkers that are talking about like what is existence, like what is an existential question. So Martin Heidegger writes this book called Being and Time, and it's two parts, being and time, and he talks about basically what these questions are, but he's not coming at it from like a scientific point, but like the existence, like what is the experience of time. And so he talks about he has this term that he calls Dasein, and it's translated as like being there. So it's like that I would be this, like I'm here, you know, in this part of time, you're there in that part of time with the location and like all that stuff, right? And our individual experiences. And what he talks about is we're going along, you know, in the world, just operating, and then we fall out of like the kind of groupthink, and we realize that we're going to die. And suddenly we're like, what's our value? Like, what am I really concerned with? Like, you know, so the Super Bowl would be a perfect example right now. Super Bowl weekend, so many people are here, all this kind of stuff, right? And, you know, I'm captured by this, you know, the commercials and the spectacle of the whole thing, right? And all of us are collectively, and we're watching this, and then, you know, and then suddenly I feel like a little pain right here.
Right.
And I'm like,
oh no.
And so I fall out of
the group
consciousness into my own, like, what is my life? Have I made it how I wanted to be? Am I orienting myself in the things that are actually important to me, or am I caught up in like this pop culture kind of thing, right? So it's anxiety he has this term, being towards death. I'm always moving in time towards death.
That's a powerful statement.
And that I should consciously, you know, figure out what my values are, what my, you know, how do I want to leave? What legacy do I want to leave? What impact do I want to leave? How do I want to be remembered? Is it really important that I make as much money as possible, right? Like, what do I do with that money? Like, once I made it, do I hoard all of it and or do I give it all away? Like, what? And so I have to critically think on this stuff because I'm stuck in time. No one, he has this term called throneness. You didn't, maybe you did, but no one probably, you know, when you weren't Oscar, you were asked like, hey, do you want to come live life?
Yeah.
You're Oscar. You're thrown into this moment, right? I'm thrown into this life, and I have to come to terms with what I want this life to be for me, what I want this life to be for the people around me that I impact, for the society, like all that kind of stuff. And these are questions that I need to like figure out, you know, because I'm moving towards death you know.
Dude, that was like freaking powerful. It made me think. And I think that's what I'm always trying to do, is think deeper, right? Like, I'm kind of stuck on that, dude. Like, trying to digest it still. Like,
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to make
because like I feel like right now I'm in a space where like my life is super comfortable. Everything's cool. You know, I'm watching my daughter.
You got the Dior shoes on.
Everything's cool.
There's a Rolex behind us right here.
You know what I mean? I have some money. I have some money invested. My daughter's growing up. We eat good food. We could have like the freedom to live kind of like how we choose to. So like there's no like pressure to like change, even though I'm not really like super happy like with like I want more out of life. But what is that? Is it like more money? Is that what more life means? Like, you know what I mean? And if you get that at a sacrifice for like the things you enjoy, is that worth it if you're moving towards death anyways? Like, so like another thing is like my diet. I need to clean up my diet, dude. I've been eating like freaking wild, and I still go to the gym and do cardio or whatever, but it's still probably not good on my body, like just feeding it like, you know, rich foods and like, you know, whatever, like it's, but I can't seem to like make myself change, like, you know what I mean? It's like I know that I need to do this. I'm not in terrible shape or anything, but I shouldn't be doing this, but there's not enough like pain or like reason for me to be like, I really need to fucking dial down my diet or get like really super ripped or like, you know, or like, or make more money. There's no like real driver to like shift the change because it's like everything is really kosher, like everything's cool. Like, so is that right? Or is that a good experience of life, or is it like not, or like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know.
Well, I think like the biggest thing is like, you know, I don't want to like throw you into like some existential
no, that's what we need, bro. That's what we need.
But like what Heidegger is talking about is that we have to deal with this stuff, like, because this is our life, and we can't be the last thing I think anyone that's listening to this podcast has any interaction with either of our lives somehow is invested in themselves in personal development, right? You like if you're in sales, if you're in solar, like you have some inkling of like, I want to be better. Like I want to have a better life than I, you know, like we're not unconscious. We're not asleep to the fact. And I think the last thing that either of us or like in our space wants to do is like wake up at 50, 60 years old and be like, you know, wow, I'm just like, I've been asleep at the wheel of my own life. And like none of the stuff that I had dreamt of as a little child like came to pass because I just fell asleep, right? So these are questions. I mean, it's like health. My health goals are a lot different today than they were a year ago because I'm in a lot of a different place, especially with like my mental health. I mean, when I was, you know, I think I had a doctor's appointment this morning.
Here in town?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And I have Hashimoto's, which is an autoimmune disease of your thyroid.
Oh, really?
So I treat my thyroid. I've treated it since I was 18. And I've just been working so much the last 2 weeks, flying all over the place. I ran out of my medication and I didn't have a refill.
Oh, wow.
And so I've been like trying to like get, you know,
an appointment.
Yeah, an appointment. So finally get my meds sent to and I feel it. Like I feel it physically. I'm a lot heavier than it. So if your thyroid slows down, so Hashimoto's means it's hypothyroid. If your thyroid slows down, you're easier to gain weight. Your metabolism's terrible. Like, feel my hand. Do you feel how cold that is?
Yeah, it is fucking cold.
So I can't regulate body temperature, right? Freezing cold. Like, I'm tired, like all that kind of stuff. Now, when I was completely shredded and like, you know, posting stuff on Instagram, you know, me flexing, right? It was like my mental health was insane.
What do you mean, like on the bad side?
Oh yeah, I was crazy.
What do you mean by that?
I just had gone through so much like kind of like trauma and was like trying to like figure out some stuff.
But you're just like
yeah, because I couldn't sit still. Like, and that was also when I had the most sales of my entire career.
Oh really?
It was because I was just I was on the doors all the time, right? So it's like I'm in a better position today, a lot happier. You know, actually, Lee texted me last night. He's like, bro, you seem happy. And I was like, yeah, I am happy.
Nice.
You know? But would I like to have a six-pack again? Yeah, of course. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. But it's the thing with it is like success. This is like, you have to know yourself. Like, in order to be like living, you have to be taking accountability and taking an inventory of the things that are important to you, right? Because success looks different for you to me, right? So I think a perfect example is two exact same positions. They were both regional managers in two different companies, right? And I have good relationships with both of them. The exact same position, right? From the exact same place. And one of them, their goal is 50 million, and the other one, their goal is 10 million. And why is that, right? That should be, you would think that both of them would be, you know, let's split the difference, 25 million.
Yeah.
Right? But it's just their perception of what rich actually is, right? And in reality, 50 million is not, you know, rich, right? It's, you know, a lot better than the majority of the population, right? But it's like my first girlfriend, shout out to Erin Hade, go follow her.
Find her on the gram.
Buy her art. Find her on the gram, buy her art. Amazing artist, but her father was a billionaire.
What? That's crazy.
So, like, there's levels of...
Right, if you told him 50 million, he'd be like, I would kill myself.
Yeah, so it's our perception. So the success of you being able to, like, provide for your family, you know, wear the Dior shoes, right? I don't know why I keep bringing that up, but it's just because I keep saying it. But, like, cool, your perception of, like, what's, like, comfortable, someone in your position might be like, I got to scramble to, like, get more money, or like, I got to scramble to, like, do something because it's not enough, right? So I think it's really, really important that us in this space of sales or marketing, but personal development in general, is like really take inventory on like what does success mean to you? Is it a number in your bank account? Is it a number of houses? Is it the impact that you're making in the world? Is it, you know, how many shoes you own? Is it, you know, what legacy you're leaving for your family, your grandkids, and all that kind of stuff? Like, what does success mean for you? And have a goal, right? Like, you know, I think we should regularly look at our goals, see if this is something that's still applicable to me. Do I still really want this? Fine if you don't. You know? And then, like, shoot for them and start moving towards them. Yeah. A really good book is Goals by Brian Tracy. I don't know if you've read that. No. Super good, but he talks about humans are goal-seeking organisms. So, like you know, you
need a target.
You need a target. You know, there's gotta be something to work towards.
Yeah.
You know, and I think if I look at my own life, the times when I've been like the most down or depressed or something like that is I just didn't have an orientation, or that orientation, that goal no longer was something I really wanted. Yeah. You know, but I kept like kind of striving for it. Yeah. When in reality, if I sat down, I'm like, okay, you know, what do I really want? And really took like an inventory of myself. It might not be this. It might actually be this. And I'm going to be more fulfilled over here seeking that goal rather than just trying to check off this one because it's a goal.
Right, just because it was on there. Yeah. Just because and I think that could be it. Like, things change and you change, and it's okay to want different things, you know what I mean? I think that topic kind of reminds me of focus, and like kind of like getting clear on your focus, and then just like laser beaming that goal, but then like also, and maybe that's what it is. I don't really have like a big goal. I'm just like, everything's fine.
Well, there's that one book where he talks about like the big hairy goal, like the big audacious goal.
What book is that?
It's Good to Great.
Oh, yeah.
So, like, I don't know, all this stuff is like, it's all, theories and all that kind of stuff. Like, I know that if, like, why do I need to have 100 million or 50 million or, that kind of stuff? Like, there has to be something other than just
numbers
that
and
number.
Yeah, because it's just like numbers, right?
Yeah, so
you
like,
have to attach like
you think of like someone like Sam Walton, or started Walmart, right? Like Sam Walton drove a beat up old pickup truck for like his whole life, even after he was a billionaire, right? And like Dave Thomas, the creator of Wendy's, he gave so much money like away.
Really?
Yeah. So it's like, what am I doing with this stuff? Like, because solar, or whatever my job is, but it's a vehicle, right? The vehicle to make a lot of income in a short period of time. But what is that? What do I want to do with that? What's the kind of impact that I want to have in people's lives?
What is that?
Oh man, I don't know.
You're wearing the same boat, bro.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I give money regularly to things that are important to me. Reading is important. Literacy is very important to me. Suicide prevention is very important to me. I'm a big believer in the Bible, so I give money to just getting Bibles out there. But if you sat me down and you're like, hey, here's $100 million or whatever, and we want you to start a nonprofit or whatever, right? And we want you to look at the biggest impact that you can make in the world, right? So Bill and Melinda Gates, right, they saw it as vaccines, right? Which I don't want to get into any of that stuff, whether that's right or wrong, right? As someone who's been to Africa, like I've been there, like malaria sucks.
That's not something you want to have.
You don't want that, right? And but to me, what opened up and what my actual values are, after thinking long and hard about it, my number one value is learning. And I think education is the thing that changes someone. I think it's and I'm not saying college or
right.
I'm saying like self-education. Like the most impactful thing you can be is an autodidactic. Like
what's that word?
So autodidactic is like a self-taught person, right? So it's like, I think the access to information is the key thing. So what happened when the Bible becomes translated into out of Latin and into the dialect, right? Whatever that language was. Suddenly you have Protestantism disappears and Martin Luther nails his theses to the church, and you have this explosion in theological, that huge impacts. Like, we came to this country to escape religious persecution, right? As radical Protestants, right? We founded this country on those principles, on the religious freedom, right? So it's like the moment, and this, I'm not saying anything about Catholicism, so don't
you're good.
Read into that. But the moment that we have access to the Bible in a language that I can understand is the very moment that I now have a personal relationship with a God. And I no longer need a mediator, this priest telling me what I can and can't think.
Organized religion.
Yeah.
So how do you feel about that? Is it like do you, I don't know, relate or connect to like an organized religion, or is it more of like just the Bible is it considered literature, or just like as a piece of information in which you could connect to like a higher power.
Yeah, and I personally am, I'm a Christian, but I also find various different religious texts. Obviously, right. I like them. So I think for me, it's the Bible, the Quran, the Bhagavad Gita, the Upanishads, the Dhammapada, and the Tao Te Ching. Those 6 books, if you read them, there's value in all of them.
What about the Torah?
The Torah, well, the Torah is part of the Bible, right? The Old Testament. Yeah. So those 6 books, one, you're going to understand a lot of the religious thinking in the whole world. You're obviously going to pick up a lot of like stuff about yourself,
right?
Some stuff that helps you. I read a book years ago that ultimately made me a Christian called Basic Christianity by John Stott, and he was an evangelical theologian from like I think the 50s. He was he was in English, and he basically talks about like these 6 books, give or take, and one of them in those 6 books, one of them, there's one person that refers to himself as God. Right? And like now we got to take that serious, like let's kind of back this stuff up. And he goes through the Gospels and he backs all this stuff up. And by the end of that book, I was literally convinced. That's when I turned my life over to Christ. The last page of that book is inviting Christ into your life, right? And I was up. It was a perfect time in my life. And I was up in this like retreat, up in the mountains in Oregon, and I was alone, and I was on the bed, and got up, and I, hit my knees, and I read this prayer, and and I've tried to, and we fail, but tried to live my life in that kind of principle.
Yeah.
Since then, but that being said, is like the Tao Te Ching is one of the all-time most poetic books, but 2 is like that thing is profound.
Where is that from? Like what?
That's dialect? Chinese.
That's what it sounded like, but I don't want to be assumptuous.
No, that's Chinese. So Lao Tzu is a philosopher, before Christ. I want to say, maybe like 500 to 1,000 years before Christ. So,
oh wow.
This book that he leaves behind is like, I think it's like 88 or so, little short kind of like meditations. The first half is on this thing that he's talking about, the Tao. So he says the Tao that can be named is not the eternal Tao. So the thing that I'm pointing to isn't what I'm actually. So the Tao basically is like harmony with like the world, right? And then the second half of the book, and so the first half of the book is basically like the Tao and what it is and who has it and that kind of stuff, and like how to be in touch with it. And then the second half of the book is like essentially like politics, right? Like how do you govern according to like the Tao. So in that time period, you also have like Confucius comes a little bit later. He writes the Analects. Confucius also really impactful thinker, in that part of the world. But there's this kind of at least my reading of Chinese history, which is not very extensive or anything like that, right? You have these 2 kind of polar opposites: the Taoist thinking, which is more like, kind of like go with the flow, kind of, right? And then the
yin and yang.
And then the Confucian, which is very like orderly based, like society like has order and like things need to have order. And so you have at various points in Chinese history, like, one flowering while the other one's kind of falling away, right? But yeah,
Confucius is from the same like origin as the Tao guy.
What's his name? So Lao Tzu.
Lao Tzu, sorry.
Yeah, so Confucian. I mean, you have tons of different philosophers at that time talking about how to organize society, and this huge flowering of philosophical and religious thought, right? But Lao Tzu, the story of him it's kind of like a mythical story, but he's essentially like this kind of like hermit, and he's like leaving town, and like he's a wise old hermit, right? And he's riding like a donkey or something like that. And the guard at the gate is like, "Hey, Lao Tzu, like, where are you going?" And he's like, "I'm leaving. I'm going away." And then he's like, "Will you leave us something?" And he writes the Tao Te Ching and gives it to him and goes off. Yeah.
Disintegrates into the ether.
Yeah, and then there's the next influential thinker in Taoist is this guy Cheng Zhu or Cheng Zai, but he's the one that talks about he's like asleep and he's dreaming that he's a butterfly, and he wakes up and he's like, so now he's awake and he's like, am I a butterfly who's dreaming that I'm a man, or am I a man who's dreaming that I'm a butterfly? And that's like his like big thing, like who are we? Like, where are we? Like, what is this? You know, is this reality? Is there something that's deeper than this?
I mean, I think there is, but
yeah.
That's pretty crazy, dude.
Yeah.
Well, anyways, bro, we've been talking for almost 2 hours, believe it or not.
I feel like that's ended.
So I'm surprised that I had an hour and 45 minutes on this card, so it's probably coming pretty close.
Cool.
But dude, I could freaking jam with you all day long. I feel really grateful that you're able to inspire like deeper thought in me. I think that that's what I'm always looking for, is like just a deeper or a wider. Have you done shrooms? Mm-hmm. So like just like when you just feel like that like wide thought, like that's all I'm trying to always do is like tap into a deeper thought. So I appreciate you helping me tap into a deeper thought. I hope that the viewers got some value out of this.
Totally, yeah. We were all over the place.
Dude, we were all over the place. I mean, there's going to be some great social content for sure. Nice. But dude, any last words you want to leave the audience with?
I would say a lot of our conversation is like that we've been having is like look inside yourself. All the answers are already there. Look inside yourself, figure out what is a value. What are your values? Not Oscar's values. What are your values? Really investigate that self and then dream big and go chase that, So
I love it, bro.
That's the final
thought.
I feel like we can sum everything up
in that.
Talking about time and being and life and all that is look inside yourself, figure out what your values are, and then go chase that.
Go create that reality in this 3-dimensional world.
Yeah.
Well, you heard it from the man himself, Dr. Samuel Gilpin. I don't think you get doctor very often, huh? We need it. I'm gonna change.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have everyone call you doctor. I'll be like, "What's up, doc?"
Yeah.
Yeah. Sick, dude. Well, yeah. Thanks for coming.
Thank you
all the way from Portland to Las Vegas.
At the worst time.
Yeah. All right, brother.
Cool.
Peace.